Welcome to the FOD, where we bring you insights into the future of digital commerce for free. Season 5 is all about the move to composable architecture, and while it's not a buzzword anymore, there are still a number of unanswered questions, which is why I'm speaking to those who have the answers. In return, if you enjoy our content, we ask if you could like and share to spread the message far and wide. And here we are, episode 3 already. Today, I welcome Dom Selvon, Global CTO of Applied Digital. Dom brings a wealth of experience within commerce, having been in this space since the noughties. He spent the best part of the last 5 years advising customers on transitioning to a fully composable architecture, initially at E2X and now Applied Digital, who acquired the business in late 22. On top of this, Dom is also an executive board member of the MACH Alliance. Welcome, Dom. Great to have you today. Do you want to tell your audience a little bit more about yourself and Applied Digital?
Yeah, thanks, James. Thanks for having me. Really like talking about this subject. Looking forward to the conversation today because as we'll get into, it's important, almost a seminal shift in the way businesses do businesses, particularly enterprise, complex enterprises. So I'm always happy to talk about it. As you say, I've been doing this for quite a while. Commerce as a domain, as a theme, probably 10, 12 years, maybe even longer now. But I've been in this tech game for a long time. I've seen transitions from the various different types of doing software, from the old days back to where we are now with the more modern architectures, and taking that experience, taking that expertise is something I try to bring to my clients in a consultative manner. Yeah. So I mean, we've been doing this for a good bunch of really sort of high profile brands as well, with unique complexities within them. So ranging from Games Workshop, which is about the look and the feel and the internationalization aspects, through to the Very Group, which is pure play but has a wealth of diverse product catalog that needs to take the finance aspects into it, but also the catalog in there as well. But yeah, no, we've been doing it for a while, and we like to think we're okay at it as well as.
Okay, and I imagine that the uniqueness you just highlighted there is probably one of the key reasons you advise customers to go on that composable journey. Something that I understand anyway is the reason why a lot of brands decide to start the journey is and remove themselves from a monolith is because they have something unique about the business and that they can't present that to their customer in the way they want to without having something unique about their technology stack as well.
No, look, we E2X, myself and a bunch of other systems integrators have been building complex commerce applications for a good long time, and we've been able to customize the monolithic applications to meet these needs. So being able to realize the ambition, the sort of vision of businesses, it's not something that's been impossible in the past. Absolutely not. The challenge that businesses were finding was the operational overhead of that was adding to their cost bases. So having to maintain an entire monolithic architecture, a monolithic application, so that you make one change for one small part of the business, you deploy the entire stack, was started to get operationally over cumbersome. It was overburdening the IT departments. It was overburdening the operational staff as well. So figuring out a way to try and isolate those operational aspects of the business, so that there's a bit more flexibility in those areas that require more change, a bit more flexibility to the imaginations of the business as well. Whereas the bits that don't require much imagination, often the back office side of things, can stay stable. The bits that do require imagination, the experience layers, front ends, they can change in different paces, and you can't really do that very easily, even in a highly customized monolithic context. It's a bit difficult to do that. So that's largely what precipitated this transition to a more decomposed architecture. Certainly, in the old days, there was one application to rule them all that did everything for you. But as we started to realize that one application, put that burden on the business, being able to decompose, being able to have niche applications, whether that's bought, whether that's built, being able to customize them and really tailor them to your business vision, just opened up so many doors for these enterprises. And that's largely why people are starting to go this direction. They're seeing that green grass on the other side.
Yeah, well, we know that. I mean, you would have seen many more than I have, but going back to the days of the legacy monolith, and when it came to point in which there was an upgrade to be done or a migration, that was something that was obviously very time consuming and very costly. But also it then prevented innovation because all of the team is busy doing the upgrade and not working on any tweaks that could make the business slightly different. Would you say that was maybe the sort of the pivotal point? Because I mean, we've been sort of looking at headless now for 10, maybe slightly more than 10 years. And in this, whilst we've kind of been doing the composable transition during that period of time as well, I would say in the last sort of 5 or so years, it's really had a pivotal moment where businesses have really felt actually we need to decompose the different areas as well, like maybe the PIM or the CMS or whatever it might be. What would you say is has been the sort of the defining factor as to why that is? Is it the cost on the business?
Upgrades are a nightmare, and you get no business benefit other than maybe security patches and a couple of other, very, very, very simple or not non-game changing functional additions. For quite a large outlay, a typical ATG upgrade in 5 years ago, which is probably the last time I did an upgrade, was taking upwards of 6 months. It was taking a team of 4 or 5 engineers plus the client team to testing, user acceptance, and so on and so forth, just to maintain the status quo. And you can imagine what that cost outlay was on top of that.
Yeah, huge.
It's not really tenable if you tried to pitch that to a business today in the challenging market conditions that we're facing right now, you'd be laughed out the room. And so the versioning aspect of, or the non-versioned aspect of the sort of modern Mac applications is something that's really quite compelling to businesses. You have to have a relatively mature operational CI/CD, the sort of engineering side of things, infrastructural side of things. You have to have a relatively mature approach to that to be able to tolerate the constantly changing back-end systems. But those back-end systems are built in such a way that it's non-breaking. So you might get new functionality available to you, but until you start to use it, it's not going to break your systems in theory.
Okay.
But you need to make sure that you're tolerant to that sort of really highly changeable environment within which you're working.
Something you touched upon there is you have to have a relatively mature business to be able to undertake this transformation. And Joe, that's something that a number of guests spoke about in our last series. And in fact, one of the ladies we had also, she actually highlighted that if she felt that if their business wasn't digitally mature, maybe Composable wasn't the right move for them. Now, you obviously have tens of these conversations every year with businesses of all shapes and sizes. Some will be digitally mature, others not so much. What would you advise your customers around that topic?
So the business vision needs to be understood first. You can't go into this sort of paradigmic shift without understanding what your business does first. You can't say, okay, let's choose a Mac or a composable piece of software, plumb it into our systems and say, yay, we're composable. Because what you're going to end up doing is aligning your business applications, so forth, just to that piece of technology. And then that technology will then grow. And then what you'll eventually end up with is what's, getting a bit of traction in the market, the term of a Mac monolith. So what you've got is the sort of veneer of a Mac or a composable architecture, but actually all you've got is a monolith that's presenting itself with an API and has a couple of microservices and is tacitly headless. You can't do that. If you start to understand what your business needs first, if you really sort of decompose the facets of your business, figure out how data flows from A to B, from back office to consumer, figure out what you actually what actually differentiates you as a business, and then start to then assign that to business capabilities. I think there's a Gartner term called packaged business capability, which is built on top of business capabilities. Understand those business capabilities first before you start thinking about your technology. Then you'll be in a much better place to choose the right SaaS application or choose the right choice between a build and a buy decision, so that when you actually run your application in the future, your operational way of working as a business, your communication pathways and so on and so forth, aren't conflicting with the technology that's supporting it. Technology is a supporting tool, it's not the be-all and end-all of a business. And we do try and make businesses understand, first and foremost, that going on a composable journey means change. And that change needs to be as painless as you possibly can make it. And so you need to tailor that change in a transitional manner, so that you can. It's not a short, sharp, ripping a plaster off pain. It's a slow transition to compose to a composable business in the future, and so that it's natural, and everyone's bought in on
it. The change topic there, I think, is also a big aspect as well, and something I'm hearing about a lot in the market is businesses are starting to go on the composable journey, and actually they're not really aware of the amount of change that is required from the business, and just how many people in the business it impacts. You obviously have the stakeholders and the project sponsors. You also have the actual individuals in the team as well, from all aspects of the business, whether they're in marketing and finance. All of their applications are going to change, and you need to get that buy-in from every single person in the business, which I know can be tough. Interestingly enough, I was actually at one of your events last year with Paul from the Very Group, and he spoke about storytelling within the business and how he was able to, or I think it was him anyway, to bring the whole business on their journey of the composable transformation by repeating the same stories day in, day out, and making sure that the value was understood as to where it will come and how it will look. Is that sort of, I mean, they're one of your clients, right? Is that similar advice that you would share to customers?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and we encourage businesses to establish a target, establish a North Star, something that's that's easy to understand, not necessarily elevator pitch, but it's easy to understand the direction that they want to go. And then what you can do is every decision that you make, every choice that needs to be analysed and thought about, you look at it through the lens of that North Star. Is it going to take you closer to it, or is it going to take you, backwards or away from it? And if it is going to take you backwards and away from it, what's the mitigating factors to try and bring you back on the journey towards it? And having that understood, like Paul says, making sure that you repeat the mantra, you repeat the story, you repeat the formula. Everybody starts to think in that sort of manner, and everybody is starting to strive towards that one singular goal. It might not be a single goal, it might be multiple goals, but it's a target to be aimed for. Then everybody starts pulling in the same direction. You've not got one part of the business pulling over here, one part of the business pulling over there, which you'll naturally see in a siloed organization. You start to see a coherent and consistent, homogenous organization that is working successfully towards that goal. So yeah, absolutely. Really drilling down on what makes a business tick will help you on this kind of journey. And then you touched on something as well, James, the stakeholder aspect. When often these sort of composable transitions, we start to see a change in this. So to take what I'm about to say with a bit of a pinch of salt, it is changing. But up until now, when these businesses are going on this composable journey, it's largely an engineering or an IT-driven initiative. Mostly because IT wants an easy life. They want to be able to have scalability and flexibility and the ability to react to business change, things like that. So the composable architecture really lends itself well to that. Now, because it's an IT-driven organization, there's sometimes a difficulty in articulating the benefits that you're going to get in a business context with this sort of transition. And so being able to articulate the benefits, and having a sympathetic ear on the other side, business side, this stakeholder that is going to be the evangelist for this change is imperative. You can't do this sort of transition if it's engineering led without a stakeholder, a bought-in stakeholder who is evangelizing for this change. Paul is a perfect example of that. Someone who understands the direction of travel, who understands that long-term horizon benefit that's going to happen once this is in full flight, and is able to fight the corner of engineering, fight the corner of the composable philosophy in the business as a whole. Engineers, I'm an engineer myself. We're not often the most articulate of individuals. We're not often the best at selling things. And the early stages of a transformative architectural shift such as this are painful. There's a hump that needs to be got over. You need to establish a lot of new processes, a lot of new operational workflows that may not have existed previously, that may be a little bit intellectually different to what has been done in the past as well. And being able to market that hump as a good thing, getting over that initial hump as a good thing, because once you're over it, it's going to be plain sailing. It's going to be relatively easy once you go over it. The hump is painful to get over, and you've got to have someone pushing for the horizon of the future and saying this hump is just a bump in the road.
Do you find that having both sides of the business at stakeholder level aligned is a challenge in some of the conversations that you're having? I guess more often than not, the technical side is pushing for this, but actually the business side says, well, hang on a minute, this is going to require huge change. Do we need to be doing this? And there can often be a disagreement. How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, I mean, often the challenge that I've found in those situations is that IT is seen as a supplier to the business, and having IT as a supplier to the business, or technology, as a supplier to the business, means that there is a tension between the two that often results in compromise that shouldn't be there. The compromise shouldn't be there. Once you get engineering, once you get the development team embedded within the business, have if it's a tribal approach or however you want to establish the operating model, as soon as they're embedded within the team and they have a vested interest and an understanding, a holistic understanding of the business vision, then it's no longer a supplier-consumer relationship. It's actually a symbiotic relationship. It's one they're both going in the same direction, which is obviously, naturally it's going to be more productive.
Yeah, of course.
So that's one of the first things that we try to do when we go into a business. We try to understand the business vision first. That's first and foremost. When we sort of talk to our business, we understand the business vision first. What do they want to actually achieve? What do they think they want? And then what does that equate to what they need? And then we start to look at their current architecture. We start to think about, what components are resident within the enterprise estate as it stands at the moment, and start mapping those to this now decomposed business vision. So this piece of software realizes this part of the business vision. It also realizes this part of the business vision, but that mapping is very important to understand how the communication works internally into the business. And also it helps us understand how we can then remap those communication pathways, remap the business capabilities to new technology, how we can start to transition some of the monolithic elements, strangulation patterns or whatever you want to use, to new, more modern, more niche softwares, your commerce tools, your contemporables, your Talent Ones and things like that allow us to slowly wean the business off the monolithic applications, get them more flexible, and benefit of that is IT becomes part of the solution, not a supplier trying to fix random problems that are thrown in that direction, not understanding the context.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes sense, right? Having the business being seen as one rather than IT as an external supplier. I mean, that sounds pretty crazy to be honest, but sounds like it's something that you face on a fairly regular basis. I guess whilst we're talking about how Composable has grown over the last sort of 10 years or so, I guess if we take the MACH Alliance, who have, so I guess, pioneered uh, its development, its kind of development, and they've gone from single figure members to over 100 in a couple of years. That is obviously great, but also creates quite a bit of confusion, I'd imagine, for end customers. They've now gone from having a handful of CMS providers to having 10 CMS providers, and equally with PIMS and obviously all different areas in the ecosystem. Now, I would imagine from an end customer point of view, there is well, there's only a certain amount of time you can have when it comes to deciding on what's its best with you, and you can't speak to everybody. So if you had an end customer that asked you, should we pick our vendors first or should we pick our supplier, our integrator first? What would your response be to that?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to take my apply hat on and put my Mac hat on that, because if I
Okay.
kept my apply hat on, the natural answer would be choose the systems integrators. And the reason why I wanted to take that hat off is because I wanted to explain why I think that's a good idea in
Okay.
a non-dogmatic fashion, okay, or a non-aligned fashion. So if you choose a commerce platform first, or if you choose a content platform first, and you start building on that immediately, the thing you'll find will happen is your data model and your workflow process will very, very rapidly evolve to follow that particular technology's opinion. Okay. Now, many of these Mac applications are pretty niche and pretty sort of domain specific. So doing that is not a major problem in the grand scheme of things. It could be, but it's not a major problem. However, if you take a step back and understand the processes that make that your business is used to, is established within the business, is working well, and there's no friction. Understand those first, and then look at the technology that can realize those processes. What you'll end up with is not just one technology to dictate to your business. You'll have the technologies that are supporting your business. And the only way you can really do that is either do an introspection exercise internally, look inwardly, figure out how it all fits together, decompose it, put it all back together, and then have a understanding internally, or get someone who's done it before to help you decompose and so on. Now, getting someone who's done it before to come in and help you, you'll get natural speed, and you'll get natural acceleration off the back of that. You'll also get an opinion there as well. Okay, so that opinion, the apply opinion or whoever's opinion, will be tempered and will be seen through the lens of the enterprise that they've worked with previously and the experience that they've got with working with previous clients. So if you're a pure play online retailer with a massive catalog, then apply, given the very group's experience, be a very, very good choice to understand how that all works. If you're a manufacturer or a D2C customer or something like that, or maybe finance, something that's a little bit outside of the apply wheelhouse, then maybe going to apply, we could apply some first principles to decomposing the business. But you know what? There might be better, more experienced systems integrators out there, or even a management consultancy. So long and short, very long answer to a very short question. I do firmly believe that you need to get someone who has a consultancy mindset to analyze and figure out the ins and outs and the ways and working of your business before you decide on a technology. You can decide on your macro domains of technology. Say we need a commerce platform, we need a content platform. We've got some unique promotional aspects, so we need a promotions platform. Ratings and reviews is very, very unique, so we might have to build that. Blah 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 blah. Absolutely, but you have to understand your business first before you choose the actual technology.
Okay, yeah, I would be inclined to agree, and I feel as though speaking to leaders within the agency space over the last couple of months, many have said similar, and you should pick your, it's kind of like a joint approach. You want to pick the agency that can advise you on the technology that's best for your business, but equally you don't just want to go with an agency because they say you have to use this. They should be able to give you a variety of options as well. If they're just saying you need to use this and this because we've done this before, well, it's like, okay, well that's relevant to said business over there, not directly relevant for us and what have you. So I guess my take for it is you kind of want to do a bit of both, but yeah, I guess it's a tough one though, and I guess every business and is unique, and they have to look at it in a slightly different way that suits their business. I guess it also depends on what are you trying to change. Are you looking to start a 3-year transformation program and break down all of your components, or are you just looking to start with your CMS, for example? And if so, maybe that might be a slightly easier process to start analyzing 3, 4, 5 vendors yourself, and then bring an agency. And do it.
Yeah, you still got to understand why you think the CMS is the part of the business that needs to change. If all you're doing is replacing the CMS that already exists, then you'll maintain the status quo.
Yeah,
really, that might be the right choice, but you need to go in there and be data driven. You need to be fully understood, fully cognizant of the baseline from which you're working, so that if and when changes are made, you know that they're for the better.
Okay, I guess I'm kind of making the assumption that they know that, but hey, Joe, well, that's probably not a good assumption to be making. and yeah, you can tell you've had a lot of these conversations because I'm sure you've dealt with similar situations. So look, I guess that moves sort of nicely into sort of the one of the next questions then, which would be, in your opinion, what is the number one reason why composable transformations fail?
Yeah, it's a good question, James. It's a relatively nascent paradigm, the sort of composable architecture. We've been doing service-oriented architectures for many, many, many years. Service orientation is not a new concept in the realms of architecture and design and so on. But the concept of SaaS platforms, the concept of applications that concentrate on one single element of the domain that needs to be fully integrated, does lead rise to complexity, does lead rise to various other risks of adopting this sort of approach. If you do choose technology first, then there's a risk of vendor lock-in, as I described. You start to follow their opinions and their patterns. With more moving parts, with smaller granular components within the architecture, you're bringing rise to security concerns. There's a larger surface area of attack. There's more vectors for attack. There's more things exposed to the internet that have your data in and so on. So you've got to be a bit more security conscious. Performance is an element that you have. With the monolithic world, there's one network hop into the application, and everything else then is running either off disk or off memory, much faster than hopping around a Kubernetes cluster or hopping around different cloud vendors, for example. So architecting for that is not simple. There's loads of patterns that make that happen, but it's not necessarily simple. Data consistency is something that you need to be aware of. You need to be really keenly aware of where your data sits at rest. Who owns the data? Could it be the SaaS platform that owns the data? Could it be your back-end systems that owns the data? How do you get data from one application to another application in a timely manner? and in a consistent manner. Got to be massively aware of all those sorts of aspects. Expertise is another area that you need to think about. You know, these technologies have nuance. The cloud vendors. You know, I looked at the drop down menu of AWS recently, and it's over multiple pages of all the different services that are available from AWS, each of which could arguably, you know, feature in a complex enterprise cloud-based application. And knowing each of those when they go wrong. So when they go right, they're brilliant. When they go wrong, and being able to diagnose them and figure out what's gone wrong and how to fix it, that lack of expertise can really bring a business to its knees. So that's important. And then one other area that's important. It's still not the single reason that the composable transformations fail. I'm getting to that. Okay. Bear with me. But cultural resistance is another area that people don't quite realize is a barrier for success for these composable transitions. You know, these businesses are often successful. They often want to take themselves to the next level. You know, they want to say, hey, look, we've made a record year or whatever it means, but we need to now grow. And the business is operationally set up for how they currently work. The individuals who are working in the business are comfortable. They know their jobs. They know what to do in these various different situations. And throwing in a complete paradigm shift onto their plates, you know, it's a cognitive load that they don't really want to deal with. And so that cultural resistance is a real thing. You know, people may intellectually want to get the benefits that are going to come off the back of this, but you know, we're naturally many people are naturally lazy people. They just want the easy life. They want to be able to do their job well and do it how they know it, and throwing in change because of a growth ambition from the board or whoever is sometimes met with resistance.
Yeah, we see that all the time, particularly people that have been in a company for a long time. They've been doing something the certain way for 5, maybe more years. To then shift it is tough, right? And those people will have to adapt to it.
But the biggest reason that these composable transformations fail is a lack of understanding of the complexities involved. So remember we talked about earlier the hump that needs to be surmounted.
Yep.
Once, if you understand that complexity, if you understand that there is a point in time where you're thinking, is this the right thing for us to do? This is too hard. This is it's slower than the old version. It's not as feature rich as the older version. You know, we're getting in comparison, we're getting so much little throughput compared to the old version. Why are we wasting all this time on doing it? Often businesses say, okay, let's pull the plug on this. We're not getting the benefits that we were promised. We're not getting the flexibility and the speed and the scalability and all these sort of abilities that were promised. Why are we wasting the time, the mental health, the mental bandwidth of our engineers and of our product owners for something that's worse? And not understanding that there is that hump to get over, not understanding that there is an operational change that needs to happen is often one of the largest and most prevalent reasons that I've seen these sort of transitions fail or stutter, at least.
Yeah, and that would be echoed in many of my conversations as well, is how can the business start seeing ROI as fast as possible? Because if they go through a long period where they're not seeing any ROI, and like you said, people's roles are changing, they're becoming more complex, they're doing things that they weren't doing beforehand, they're maybe not enjoying them and they can't see why they're doing it, then it's going to create conversations and potentially problems. So, okay. Very very prominent point to discuss, and like I said, it's something that has been echoed in many a conversation, both from agency leaders like yourself as well as on the end customer. Let's say you're in a conversation. I don't know. I guess this situation is probably something you've had to deal with at some point over the last 5 years, and having a customer that's on the journey and they're maybe getting a little bit wobbly. They're thinking, okay, is this the right thing? Should we have done this? How are we getting on with it? What would be your number one piece of advice to that customer that is at that point in their journey as to why they should continue?
Yeah, we try to counsel our clients in a way that they don't end up in that situation. You kind of hit on it earlier. The ROI, the quick ROI is massively important to businesses. So identifying elements of the business that can test the operational changes that are going to be coming in through this composable shift, but are relatively small, is important. So we've identified 3 different patterns that can be used when you do this sort of transition. There's the functional, structural, or regional approaches. The functional one is you choose a small function, top to bottom, and change that and make that a composable approach. So that could be, I don't know, the catalog. It could be the product and the product, getting a product detail page up there too, or it could be an add to basket function. That will touch on quite a few different aspects of the business. It'll get a tangible thing out there for the business to see. Look, we're making a difference. We're getting this, that, and the other. But analytics behind it, you can see, oh, there's an uptick in people adding to basket in this approach than the old approach. You know, there's benefits on that one. So the structural approach, you take an aspect of the experience, which could be the search, which could be, I don't know, the homepage from a content perspective, and change that top to bottom from experience through to data. Again, it's a bit larger. It will take a bit longer, but the result is more impactful as well. So the business will be able to see the result. The third one, the regional approach, is again much larger. Take a longer time to build. We call it regional, but actually it could be microsite. It could be a small brand that has low financial impact on the customer, but is a good way to bottom out the operational changes that are required top to bottom throughout the enterprise. The challenge with that one is often you need to have parallel people doing similar roles. So you need people who are maintaining the status quo and people who are doing the new approach. So go back to that cultural resistance area. You've got people who are seeing the new shiny stuff and who are experiencing the new fun stuff. People who are still with the old world. You'll probably find individuals who will do that, but you might not have the staff count to be able to do that. So you've got to figure out and plan out which approach is the right one for you. The reason why we counsel those different approaches to it is exactly this, the hump problem, because what you're doing there is a risk mitigation exercise. You're making it so that the complexities that you're bringing into the enterprise estate, are minimized because the surface area that you're impacting, the business surface area you're impacting, is small. Financially, functionally, however you want to whatever lens you want to put through it, that's best for you as a business to consume as a stakeholder and to consume. That's what you're looking at it through. And so when it comes to the point where actually this is difficult, the impact on the business is low, and you're willing to push through and get over that hump.
I guess as well, on top of how you'd break it down, you can also refer back to the storytelling element as well, and repeating the story as to why they started this journey in the first place, right? And I think if you can break it down how you mentioned and start to show that ROI, but also remind them of why they embarked on the journey 6 months, 9 months, however long ago, then it goes back to just constantly repeating it. And I think, as Paul said, when I saw him, you can't say it too much. You almost want to know that story off by heart because you say it so often.
Yeah, I think we've name dropped Paul quite a bit today, but he's incredible individual. And one of the other things that he does say is this concept of a driver and a navigator. And if you think about when you're on a long journey in somewhere you don't know, but you've got someone beside you telling you where to go, you feel more comfortable than if you've got a long journey, you don't know where to go, and you're trying to figure it out yourself. Okay, so this is why having that systems integrator who has done this before, who knows the pitfalls, who knows the challenges, and has got out of them in the past, sitting next to you, guiding you, reading the map, and saying, "This is where we need to go. And this is okay. We've seen this before, and we just need to go around these few bends, and we'll be on plain sailing again." That comfort that brings to a business really allows them to say, "Actually, we're on the right path here. We're doing okay. It's tough. It's tough right now, but we know that there's light at the end of this tunnel," and that's massively important. That's one of the things that keeps these projects going well. If you have a partner that's unsure, that hasn't done it before, doesn't really know what to do in various different situations, that discomfort exacerbates that hump, makes that hump so much bigger, and people don't get over it in those scenarios.
I've actually not heard that analogy before, but I really like it, and it makes complete sense. So nice one, thanks for sharing. So moving on then to the next question, Dom. What are the top 3 things that you would advise any end customer to do before they start that journey? I'd imagine we may have touched upon some of these in the conversation so far, but let's give it a quick highlight reel.
Yeah, no, we have. I think the top 3 things that you would do before starting your journey, I mean, first and foremost, as I've said a couple of times, is understand your business. Understand what makes your business unique. Understand how you communicate within the business. So communication is often mirrored by the data flows within the business. It's often mirrored by the processes between the business. If you don't understand your business, then the technology will just be a Frankenstein. It will be a mishmash of software that's fighting to communicate with each other. But if you do understand your business, then you can be really intelligent in the way you build out your software. Secondly, you need to prepare the business for change, and this is done through storytelling. It's a great way of doing it, but also having an evangelist. We call the change agents within the business. Those individuals who have a senior enough position, not necessarily C-level, but senior enough position, who have influence both up and down the business. So they're often relatively new individuals into enterprises. They have an enthusiasm for change. They have an enthusiasm for growth, and they have a position that allows them to influence the senior stakeholders, but also bring the engineers, the operational staff, all of those people on the journey with them as well. Work with them to prepare the business for change, to make the business understand that this isn't the composable way is different to the monolithic way. There's not one application to rule them all. There's many applications, all working in a beautiful ballet of technology to realize the business vision. But that means that there's communication change that's going to happen. There's process changes that's going to happen. There's data flow changes that's going to happen, and there's analytics that are going to be needed to be able to identify problems. You're not going to be able to figure out what's gone wrong just by looking at a single log file. You've got to have aggregates and so on. So that change is massively important, and the business needs to be fully cognizant of the fact that that is going to happen. And then third, employ a consultancy or a systems integrator that's done it before to provide that navigation, to provide that guidance, so that you're not just doing it. I say that a little bit tongue in cheek, consultancy, but I think it is important. I do think it is.
I think it's really important to use somebody that's done it before, and that's why obviously the next question is what it is, because for me, the partner that you choose to help you along your journey is absolutely pivotal to a successful transformation. And I think ultimately you want that partner to be excellent problem solvers and be excellent at understanding your business, because my understanding is that there is no two composable transformations that are the same. So actually the partner that you choose, if they've done multiple of these for different enterprises in different industry sectors, etc., then they're going to come to the table with so much knowledge around how they can help you on challenges that they face and all sorts. And that's kind of what you need. If you're working with someone because they're cheap and they say they can do it, but actually, can they? Have they done it before? You probably set yourself up for a few problems.
Yeah, early days in the sort of composable evolution, we were losing business, and the reasons that we were losing business was because our competitors were demoing much better than we were. We went to market on on the fact that this is not easy, that the integrations are hard, that making things talk to each other behind the scenes well is what will set you up for success in the future. Our competitors went on through a lens of this looks good, this looks pretty. This is it's got your logos and things like that. It's nice looking, and that was more compelling. But now a more savvy customer is actually realizing that there's many moving parts, so they need to talk to each other. Interoperability is going to be one of the biggest buzzwords in 24. I guarantee it, because you've got to have that seamless communication between these systems, so that you get the benefits of that monolith all in atomic one atomic component, but the further benefits of the flexibility and the sort of real best practice of the SaaS applications doing what did they do best. And obviously, we now do the prettiness as well better than we did. But the savvy customer recognises that it's actually the operational aspects that are the difficult bits.
Okay. So I guess I mean that naturally moves us on to the next question. Like I say, this is my favorite question actually, for the reasons I just mentioned. But what is the number one thing that you would suggest any end customer, that you would advise any end customer to check before finalizing their SI selection?
One thing, I mean,
There's probably
due
lots of things to
diligence.
check, right? But
Well,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
the
due
number
diligence.
one.
You've got to do the due diligence on the systems integrator. But really, you're looking for a mix of experience and of deep domain knowledge. Now, that domain knowledge could be in your vertical, or that domain knowledge could be in the aspect of the business that you want to grow, content, commerce, whatever that looks like. But you really want a systems integrator that can take the delivery aspects of a systems integrator and couple that with business change aspects that are inherent, as we, for the reasons we've discussed already today. That you understand the consultancy aspects, understanding the business vision. So having a consultancy that can do the consultancy side of things and the delivery side of things, I think is very important in this day and age. You could argue that why do you have the composable vendors, the products, but you don't have composable systems integrators? You can't. You have to have a consistency across the board. You could get a niche element of your business further down the delivery timeline, no problem with that. But to start off with, you need to have a consistency across the board. You need to have a holistic understanding of what that North Star is going to look like, what that story is going to be, as said at the beginning, and so that you then maintain a consistency, you maintain a thread through the transition, so that you don't go off piste and go into pitfalls in the future. So domain knowledge and experience.
Perfect. It's interesting you mentioned about the composable approach to agencies as well, because we've had previous guests that have said that that should be something that customers should also consider as well, because there are agencies out there that do have specialisms in really specific areas, and why would you not take that approach to it too? But equally, I do
Yep.
agree that you need an overarching business to sit there and take control of it, that takes the business on the journey, and then possibly utilizes some of the specialists beneath them.
Yeah.
Brill. Okay, so finally then, Dom, where does the market go from here then? How do you see the composable space evolving over the coming years?
A wonderful crystal ball.
Don't worry, we won't hold you
The
to
well,
it.
no, the market is maturing. As you mentioned, the MACH Alliance is now 100 members strong, and the brain trust that has brought together is it's quite humbling. Actually, seeing the very very smart people being able to all contribute together in a non-competitive environment is meaning that some of the thought leadership that's coming out of the MACH Alliance it looks very very good. We're seeing aspects of interoperability, so the standards that will come out of the MACH Alliance. There'll be some publications very very early this year, and publications throughout the year that'll change the game a lot as well. And then discoverability as well. You mentioned previously that we only had one content management system. Now we've got 10. How do you decide between the two? One of the main drivers behind the MACH Alliance was to take away that burden, that intellectual burden, the decision-making burden, and put it onto someone else. There's discoverability work that's going on to maintain that philosophy, so you don't have to keep thinking. You can just go and say, this is what my business needs to do. Give me some options, and why they're good options.
Okay.
Bit diminutive, but that's exactly what we're trying to achieve there. And then I think, secondly, we'll see acceleration becoming key. There's lots of moving parts. There's lots of opinions. That's lots of ways to skin this cat. You can have just have content and commerce and get the majority of what you want to achieve in an online transactional business, or you could have many SaaS platforms plus custom microservices in there as well that realize your business vision. But that hump still needs to be got over at the beginning. So acceleration, getting people partially over that hump early doors, is going to be very, very important to businesses in the new year. They want the benefits of the monolith with the benefits of a composable architecture. And the easiest way to bridge that gap is through accelerators, is through bootstrapping applications. And so we'll see systems integrators more and more providing those accelerators.
Yeah, well, we're seeing that. We've also recently seen Commerce Tools provide accelerators between some of the other ISVs in the MACH Alliance as well. Is it Connect? Is that what I think it's called?
Commerce Tools Connect is it is good. We've built a few Commerce Tools Connect applications, particularly in the payment space and the customer experience place as well. And I think it's a good initiative from Commerce Tools. It is a very good initiative.
From an outsider's perspective like myself, it seems like if the process can be slightly less complex and slightly quicker, then that's going to overcome the biggest challenge that the majority of businesses face, which is seeing ROI quickly and overcoming that hump like you mentioned. So hopefully that creates a win-win environment.
It's a beautiful tension between not being dictated an opinion, but also accelerating the delivery of the application. If you're willing to adhere to another business's opinion, and let's just take an example. Your commerce aspects are relatively simple. It's literally adding to a basket and checking out. Then you know what? Shopify might be the best choice. It might well be that you don't need to have the complexity in your business. All you need to focus on is the product that you're selling. But if you do have any sort of customization ambitions, if you have any sort of uniqueness to the business, then decomposing and having a componentized approach, a modular approach, is really where you want to be going.
We nearly made it through the whole episode without talking about Shopify. So
Sorry.
close. So
Hey, we've
close.
not even mentioned AI yet.
No, we
I thought
haven't.
we're like contractually obliged to mention AI in these sorts of things, but we've managed to get through it without it. So it's
There
good.
we go. There we go. Look, appreciate your time, Dom. It's been great. I guess this leads us nicely to the end of the episodes. So yeah, thanks a lot for your time. Lots of great insight shared, of course. Also, big emphasis on data from back office through to customer, and an even bigger emphasis on overcoming that hump and ensuring the business can see ROI as fast as possible. I really enjoyed our chat, and hopefully our listeners did too. As always, if you're tuning in and you find this useful and you enjoy the content, please do like, share, subscribe, pass it across your network. Because if each episode can just help one person and one business make the right decision for their transformation, it's doing its job. Um, Thanks again, Dom.
Thank you, James. Thank you for having me.